House Taxation Committee will be called to order. I'd like to first of all welcome back Representative Alcala. You've been missed for a while, so welcome back, sir.
Well, I appreciate that. I want to let you know I was in Albuquerque and I coached the National U.S. Boxing Olympic team, the elite team, and we came in second against, it was Russia, China, Ireland, and Canada.
That's incredible.
So
congratulations.
It was a great thing to be off.
That's great. Okay, committee, any more points of personal privilege? If not, do we have any requests for bill introductions? If there's not, I have one. It is 24 RS 3457. Are you chuckling? I'll go into detail on this because I'll kind of forewarn everyone. This is going to get fast tracked. We're going to try to schedule a hearing for this on Wednesday. And so I'm going to go into a little bit more detail than we usually do, but this is going to be the House's income tax or tax cut package. On income tax, it's going to have a reduction of rates in the top rate from 5.7 to 5.65. In the middle bracket rate from 5.25 down to 5.2. And the 3.1 bracket is going to be eliminated. This will retain the current income thresholds that we currently have in law. This also has, similar to some of the single rate tax plans, the first $7,000 for a single filer will not be taxed of your Kansas adjusted gross income for a single filer, and $14,000 for a joint filer. The standard deduction and personal exemption will both see a 3% increase in tax year for the current tax year 24, and that it will have a 2-year growth index applied after that will sunset after 2 years. It can either be renewed or allowed to stay at what it is, but what it becomes in 2 years. The Social Security piece is something we should be familiar with. We passed out House Bill 2109 last year, which is a 4-year phase out of the Social Security income tax on Social Security benefits. And it also includes the banking and financial institution privilege fees that was in Senate Bill 169 and also in House Bill 2284. For the property tax provisions, the residential exemption that is currently, I believe, 42 or 43,000 will be increased to 80,000, and it will retain the growth index multiplier, and we will also be including the bill that we heard last week, some provisions from it regarding lowering the statewide mill levy from 20 mills to 18 mills and repealing the LAVTR and CCRS funds. And that is the extent of the package. I'll take questions if there are any questions, but we'll have a chance to debate it on Wednesday. Representative Helgerson.
Did you happen to have a fiscal note yet?
I do not have the final. I've got several different provisions, but there are some pieces that kind of interact with each other that I do not have the total fiscal note yet.
One other one. Are you planning on putting this on the consent calendar?
I don't see any reason not to. As long as we don't amend it, we can. I'll leave that up to the committee, though. Representative Epley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You said it was going to repeal the LAVTR, and what was the second thing I missed?
The city-county revenue sharing, CCRS. That's the other demand transfer. Representative Sanders.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Does it do anything with the food sales tax?
It does not.
So this is a significant change from what we passed out early in the session.
Significant in several provisions, identical in others, yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Representative Avercamp.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On the income tax brackets, do the dollar amounts per bracket stay the same?
The thresholds on the income, yes.
Thank you.
Representative Howerton?
On the filing statuses, is there anything for head of household? Any change in that?
Yes. That is also the 3% increase and the growth index multiplier for head of household.
What about the standard deduction? Is that what you
Yes,
changed?
standard deduction and personal exemption all receive a 3% increase.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Representative Avercamp?
Sorry to get into the details, but if the 3.1 is gone, does the 5.2 now go to the taxable income on married filing jointly 0 to 30,000?
I'm not sure I understand your question.
So you said the 3.1 bracket's gone. Does that mean that the 0 to 30,000 is a 0% tax, or is it completely, how does it disappear? And I can wait till Wednesday, but
Yeah, basically, we get rid of that. It's the same concept as with the single rate plans that were proposed. You still have your standard deduction, your personal exemption, and then that first in 2284, it was the 6150 for single filers and 12.3 for married filing joint. That is calculated as Kansas adjusted gross income, but you don't pay any tax on that until you exceed that amount.
so $0 to 60,000 is now taxed at 5.2.
It is, but after you take off all of the
zero rate of
The zero.
14,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
essentially, I guess we're still a 3-rate system. We've got 0, 5.2, 5.65. Any further questions? Representative Corbett?
So, Chairman, with the bill that they passed out of the Senate, is it going to be tough to figure out to marry these together to get something across the floor to get out of this building?
I'm not a marriage counselor. I'm not sure what the chances are of these two getting together, but
Maybe you're a soothsayer. I don't know.
we'll see. Representative Butler.
Mr. Chair, what were you said it went from 5.75 to 5.7? I can't remember. I didn't hear quite all what you said.
The top rate right now is 5.7. That'll be reduced by 0.05 to 5.65. And the same thing with that middle bracket. Any further questions? Any objection? Seeing none. Do I have a motion? No. The bill is introduced. Any further requests for bill introductions? Seeing none, we will move on to our first item of business for the day, and that is a briefing on, not a brief briefing, but a briefing on personal property tax, vehicle taxation. When we heard the constitutional amendment, I can't remember what the resolution was, but we seem to have some questions on the ATVs and how they were taxed and things like that. So I thought it would be smart to have PVD come in and give us just kind of an informational hearing on how this stuff works. So I'd like to welcome to committee Roger Ham.
I got it. Roger Ham with Division Property Valuation. I'm glad to be here this afternoon as at your invitation to kind of go over some of the valuation of some of the personal property, some selected items, and we're going to kind of look at some vehicle, ATVs, SUVs, ROVs, and you get extra credit if you get what that acronym is, UTVs and some trailers and watercraft. Thanks to the Mitchell Slocum and Caleb Huss, they helped me put some of this material together rather quickly, and so we're glad that I was very thankful for them to help me out with that. And they're sitting behind me. I drug them along just to have the experience here.
We'll save all the hard questions for them.
Hey, just kind of a reminder, we're looking at Class 2 property. And so if you can pull up the document that I shared with you concerning this particular briefing, we're going to go over that pretty clearly and concisely to see what's going on with these valuation of these selected pieces of property. Constitutional classification system. This is Class 2 property, tangible personal property. And there are those 6 subclasses that we'll be visiting about as well. Those are manufactured homes, residential, and so that's the 11.5% again, just like the real estate. Oil and gas leases, the 30% assessment rate on those. In Kansas, we consider oil and gas leaseholds as personal property. And then there's 25% for the low producing wells as well. Public utility, and that's assessed at 33%. We know what those are generally, power production, pipelines, railroads, those kinds of things. Motor vehicles, this is a subclass we'll talk about quite a bit. Those are assessed at market value of 30%. Commercial industry machinery and equipment, and that's assessed at 25%, just like the real estate side. And of course, we have the exemption in place that anything purchased or leased after June 30, 06 is exempt from this property tax. And then other, not elsewhere classified. So that's one we're going to talk about as well. You recall that House Concurrent Resolution 5022 is the one that we talked about on the ATVs and pulling that out of, if you will, this particular subclass. And so that was what the conversation was about. If we pull those out, then we can value them in a different manner as well. We'll hit the motor vehicles first, because that's one that's in Kansas, sadly, the tag and tax motor vehicles. We are one of the highest states for the property tax for vehicles in the U.S. And so we'll see how that kind of works, and we'll go into the different ways that we can value motor vehicles. And we got several in Kansas. We like to confuse people a lot, and we do a pretty good job of it in this particular area. And so the thing that we need to remember on this, based on how we register the vehicle, is how we tax it. So taxation follows how the property owner is going to register that vehicle. And so that's kind of a key to think about as we go down through the various ways that we could register these vehicles, and then how we would tax them in that. Let's start with our tag and tax motor vehicles. This is the one that most of us are familiar with. This takes care of our autos and motorcycles, light trucks as well. And so this would be the ones that most of the vehicles in Kansas are registered under. And we'll talk more about this one in a little bit, but kind of give us an idea. This is not a market value, but it has value basis on it. And so we're going to depreciate the value 15% a year. The assessment rate is 20%. And we pay this at the time of registration or renewal, and we pay ahead of this on this particular way when we register these. The tag weight is a 12,000 pound tag. And so we'll see why that's important as we kind of go down the scheme of things as well. This one also, there is no adjustment for condition, mileage, damage. It is what it is. The doors can be hanging off, and we're still going to value it the very same way. And so those are kind of the things we'll talk about. We'll get into some of more details when we come back around to this particular one. The next one that we have would be the 16 and 20s, we call them. These are tag weight of from 12,001 pounds up to 20,000 pounds. And so, and then of course there's a 16 in the middle there. Tag weight is important in Kansas because we have to have a tag weight of whatever we're going to haul in our vehicle, plus whatever the trailer weight is and whatever the load on the trailer is. So we have to have a tag weight that would take care of the combined weight of whatever it is that we're hauling and or towing. So that's an important part of why we go ahead and have the 12,000 pounds, and then we'll step up to the 16,000 pound tag, 20,000 pound, and here in a minute we'll get even higher. So the way we would do this one, this is a hybrid. This is a combination of the tag when taxed and the tax roll. First year that we decided to pull these out of the tag and tax and the 16 and 20s, we decided back in 1984 that we would pull these out of the tax roll category. And so the 16 and 20, for whatever reason, didn't make it over the finish line. So it's kind of a hybrid of the two. And so it is valued the same way as the tax when tagged, but we're going to pay the property tax on an annual basis, and it's paid in arrears based on, and it's due at the same time that the other tax would be. And so it's due first half or full by December 20, or the last half in May the 10th. So that's why it's kind of a hybrid. We do it kind of differently than some of the others. The tax roll vehicles that we're thinking about, these are heavy trucks. This is anything with a 24,000 pound tag or up. And so generally, and non-highway vehicles. And so this would, if you get a non-highway title on a vehicle because you stored it, or you don't want to get insurance or whatever the reason might be, and the heavy trucks, these are going to be valued at their market value, and assessment rates are 30%. And so that's one of the highest assessment rates that we have on our motor vehicle group at the assessment rate of 30%. These again are going to be most of our farm grain trucks are going to kind of wind up in this group. And so there's going to be, and then that's going to be the primary basis for this class of properties, if you will. Again, this is to be at market value, so they can adjust for damage, condition, mileage, those kinds of things. And again, we're going to pay in arrears. December 20th, May 10th is going to be the times that we would pay. These taxes would be due. Commercial vehicle fee. This is new, or fairly new. And so the definition, it's very specific for what we can do with these vehicles. And I'm going to kind of read that for any self-propelled or towed motor vehicle engaged in commerce is used to transport property or passengers and has a gross weight or gross combined weight of 10,001 pounds. So that's the kind of the definition that we would slide these. If you're going to be in commerce, you can go ahead and get a commercial vehicle registration on them and pay that fee. It is basically a age and weight fee. The minimum is $150 up to $400. And so that kind of gives you an idea of what the range is for these. And it's going to cover the power unit and the trailer that's behind it, depending. So based on the amount of weight that you're going to have on that collectively is kind of where you're going to set as far as the weight goes. And of course, the age would be the age of the vehicle. The other one that's kind of an age and weight thing, back in 1995, we decided to pull the RVs out of the motor vehicle group as well. And so this was anything that would be the motorhomes, campers, travel trailers, those kinds of things that qualifies as an RV. So it has to have the adequate electrical, plumbing, those kinds of things. There's a list of things that it takes to qualify for these, or anything that is in the codes for building the RVs. And so if in fact it qualifies, then it can have an RV title. And if once it does, why then it's going to be paid at the time it's registered or renewed, and based on this particular fee schedule. And I have that included as well, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. The other one, state assessed property, motor vehicles that are owned by railroads, public utilities, those are reported to Division of Property Valuation and are handled through them. And the last one that we've got here is the rental excise tax. You're going to have a bill Wednesday concerning the rental excise tax. And so it's an in lieu of property tax. They don't pay any property tax, but they pay 3.5% of the gross receipts for the rental or lease of that vehicle of 28 days or less. And so that's kind of the idea of the rental excise tax. So the rental companies are going to be remitting that to the Kansas Department of Revenue. And then 2 times a year, they're going to turn around, and wherever that car was or vehicle was rented, that county will get those funds back to them to distribute in their normal fashion. So that's kind of how that rental excise tax works.
Mr. Ham?
Yeah.
Would you mind if we interrupt for questions?
Yes.
Okay. You would mind?
I mean, no, don't.
Is the rental excise tax, is that also like a market value, kind of a 30%? I mean, how is that calculated? Do you know?
The 3%, 3.5%?
It's just a flat 3%.
It's just 3.5%
Okay.
of the receipt on your when you go in and pay your bill for your rental. On mine, it was just a line item for it was 3% of that total bill was on there. 3.5% of that bill that I got.
So it's not related to the value of the vehicle at
Absolutely not.
Okay.
No, totally different from that.
Okay.
It's just gross receipts of the vehicle
Okay.
rental. Yeah. So that's something good to remember because you're going to be hearing about that coming up pretty soon.
Representative Stockstill also has questions, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just along that same line, you said that some taxes were based on determination of market value of that vehicle or heavy truck, that sort of thing.
Yes.
Is that correct? What source do you use to determine market value?
Yes. We have a personal property guide, and in that guide we have several different prescribed guides for the counties to use for those kind of vehicles, depending on what kind of vehicle it is. So we're going to use national publications to determine what that market value might look like is what we're going to prescribe to the counties in most cases, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I hope my wife isn't watching because I'm embarrassed to say that I can't remember this, but if my wife's county treasurer and she deals with this stuff all the time, and she has somewhere that she sends clients if they're looking to buy a car. I can't remember if it's a Department of Revenue site, but they can basically go in and put in the information, the year, make, model, all the details about the vehicle, and it'll give them kind of an estimate of what their property taxes would be. Is that a department website?
Yes, that is a really nice tool that we've developed. They can go in and do just that. Based on the VIN or the make of the model, they can come up with what that very close to what the property tax is going to be on that new vehicle that they're considering. Yeah, or new or used. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great tool for folks to know about. Yes.
Yeah, she gets a lot of calls on her cell phone from people that are out vehicle shopping, and she directs them to that website. So.
That's a very good tool. Yeah. And sometimes they're surprised.
Yeah.
About what that looks like.
Representative Corbett.
Thank you, Chairman. Would you have a rough estimate of what the average year of the cars that are in Kansas on the road now? Are they like 5 years old, 10 years old? Do you have any idea what kind of a fleet or the state kind of runs up? Not the state vehicles, but just the public in general.
The average year that the cars are on the highway right now?
Yeah.
I don't think I would know what that. I'll bet there's a guy behind us that would know.
It might. So, you say we're 47th or 48th for the highest taxes on automobiles and vehicles. How do these states that are 1 and 2 and 3, how do they pull that off and still run their states? I mean, why are we so punitive on owning a vehicle in this state? And that's the question. You think that would be awful disservice if you wanted for people trying to sell vehicles. This wouldn't be the state to try to pull that off in, I wouldn't think.
Okay. I'm going to kind of go through some stuff, and maybe some of that will answer your question there. We'll see about that. If not, we'll try it again. I want to go back on page 2 as we start to kind of delve into the valuation of these vehicles specifically. Just a couple of them. Tax and tag. This is a big one because we most of ours are valued this way. And I don't know about you, but I get calls about why in the world my value is so high or my tax is so high on my vehicle. And you walk them through, how is this done? Is a lot of times the question. So it's easy to kind of walk them through how we do it in Kansas and what that doesn't reduce their taxes, but it gives them an idea how we do it here in Kansas. The table 1 is what I want you to see is our certified motor vehicle levy. And this is a 2-year-old levy. If you'll notice, the one I have, the illustration I have is the calendar year 2024. And on that, you'll see the other column, and it keys off of the county average levy for 2022, minus the 20 mills for schools. So that's a key component. So as you're thinking about this bill that may ratchet down the school statewide levy from 20 mills to 18 mills, are you going to do anything with this particular thing as well? So that's kind of something to think about as you're dealing with some of the statewide levies that we have out there. So you can see all the levies that we have on here. This would be, we're talking about the tax that we would pay in that particular calendar year as we register or renew our vehicles. What we look at when say we get a new car, we're going to go in and register this vehicle. Based on the MSRP of that value, we're going to have to determine, by statute, we need to determine what the trade-in value of that vehicle is. Well, how do you figure out what a trade-in value is on a new vehicle? Typically, we're going to use 85% of the MSRP. And our system, our motor vehicle registration system, it does this internally. And so it's going to just determine what that trade-in value of that vehicle is. Based on that, look at the table 2, and it'll fit that in those upper and lower limits of whatever it is. My illustration number up on the page at top of page 4, I've got a 2023 Ford F-150 Crew Cab 4x4 Platinum. And so the manufacturer suggested price on that is $68,490. So if you times 85%, you can see that it's $58,219. And if you go over to the chart, table 2, you can see that it drops in there at the class code 39 level. That class code stays with that vehicle till it goes to the salvage yard. And it doesn't make any difference who trades it. That's going to be what the class code. The important part of that is, if you notice the midpoint, that class code 39, midpoint of that is $59,000. That's the value of that vehicle from now on. And so that's an important part of what is going on when you go to the treasurer's office and register that new vehicle. So that stays with the vehicle. And if you look at the illustration 1, let's go ahead and value that vehicle. We can see that it's based on two calendar years, because in Kansas we have a system where our renewals are staggered based on the first initial of our last name. And so the example here I used was H&I, which is renews in June. So let's look at the 59,000 is our class code value. And then the depreciation that we have in there, we realize that it's new. So 1 year is not going to have any depreciation. The second year is going to have 15% depreciation. And so you can, as you go across there, it's going to value this. The first year, the full year value is going to be, of course, 59,000 on 1 year and 50,000 on the next year times the 20% assessment rate gives you what that is for each of those 2 calendar years divided by 12. And then you're going to, based on when you come in to renew, times the number of months that it's in there. So if you're an A, you have 10 months in 1 year and 2 months in another. If you're a B, you have 9 months and then 3. So you can kind of see how that steps down through. So that's why you don't see this behind the scenes. It's not on our registration sheets when we get it. It's all been calculated. But that's what's going on behind the scenes. And so when you calculate this out, we used the Wallace County motor vehicle levy on this one, so you can kind of see what would happen when Chairman Smith buys his new truck. And it's going to be $1,484 for that particular truck when he gets that new one. And so that's kind of how we value those vehicles. The 16 and 20s would use that same method. And but it's only 1 year. It's just that top year. So it's a January 1 thing. And so you would just use that top year. And so the value of that vehicle would be the 16,000 is, or 1,600 rather, for that particular vehicle. If I want you to go to table 3, what we did there is we lined all these up to give you kind of an example of what it would look like if we would register them in these different ways. So based on this same vehicle, class code 39, tag and tax, it's $1,314. And this is for registration year 2025 and out of Wallace County as well. And then we've got 16 and 20, it's $1,422. Tax roll, it's $2,522. And if it was registered as a commercial vehicle, it would be $250. So that kind of gives you the idea of what goes on in each one of those different categories as we register differently through that process. And we have the calculation there for that market value as well. Table 4, I wanted you to see it does matter where you register your vehicle. One of the examples I like to use is our Osage, Coffee, and Woodson counties that are stacked on top of each other. And I can see the guys down at the coffee shop talking about the value of their vehicle if they got the same thing in those particular counties, because Woodson's going to be $1,327, Coffee's going to be $672, and $1,149 for Osage County. So it does make a difference. And you heard the hearing on Rawlins County as they're contemplating bond and interest for a new school building. Will that affect their motor vehicle levy? The answer is yes. In a couple of years, that will roll into that motor vehicle levy. And yes, it will impact their registration on the taxes on their vehicles as well. So yes, it would. You can kind of see some of the other counties that we threw in there just to give you an idea of what that might look like for some of the other counties as well. The Table 5 shows a little bit about that RV schedule of age and weight and what that would look like. Uh, 5 years or less is $70, $50 for the 10 and 6 to 10, and over 11 years old, why it's $30. And then the weight component of that as well, 90 cents a hundredweight, 70 cents a hundredweight, and 50 cents a hundredweight. So based on that, we have kind of an idea, an example, if you will, an illustration two. If it's RV titled, and we've got a 2023 Forest River model 1980 pop-up camper that weighs 15 pounds. So the tax on that would be $87 if we had it RV titled. If it was in the other class, it didn't qualify, it didn't have all the things it needed to qualify as an RV, then it would be the tax on it would be $1,074. So you can see the difference between the two methods of whether it be other or whether it be RV titled. Kind of give you an idea of that. Just as an idea, we did want to share Table 6, which has all these different ways that we would value a property or the motor vehicles. We do have a list, kind of give you a history of the valuation of those particular items. The commercial vehicle fee, the top one is in-state, and the bottom one that I have listed there is the out-of-staters. So it would be based on where they actually have those vehicles is where how we break that up as far as that goes. And Table 7, watercraft. You'll notice back in 2013, we decided to pull those out of other, and we valued those at market value. And then the first year, 2014, we decided to put them at 11.5% assessment rate, and then moved it in 2015 rather, to the 5% assessment rate where it is now. So you can kind of see what happened to the valuation as we went through that process of going from the 30% assessment rate down to a 5% assessment rate. The theory was at the time why we would be able to get all these folks from Oklahoma that are registering their boats in Oklahoma, Missouri to come on into Kansas and go ahead and, although they're residents here, they were registering those boats in Oklahoma and Missouri. And if you can take a look at the registrations that we get from Wildlife and Parks, you can tell that didn't pan out exactly the way we intended it to, because in 2023, we're down to about 78,000 registrations. But it's interesting, take a look at the value. We're apparently buying higher priced boats because of the value increases that we're seeing in 2023. Kind of interesting. I wanted to start on the other. We can go real quick through this. The other part of the other subclass, the actual name of it is all other tangible personal property not otherwise specifically classified at 30%. Well, that's why we call it other. It's kind of give it. These are valued at market value, assessment rates 30%, and can be prorated. If its purchase price is $750 or less, it's exempt. And then generally these are non-commercial, non-farm type pieces of equipment and or vehicles. And you can see a list of the things that are pretty typical in this other group. Aircraft, off-road vehicles, this is going to be our golf carts and off-road cycles, ATVs, ROVs, UTVs, camper trailers and truck campers and travel trailers. And these are the ones that don't meet the requirements for RVs. And then we have tiny homes. Then we're going to have the non-commercial shipping containers that seem to be quite popular for storing things. Non-commercial trailers we would have out there as well. Truck beds, these non-commercial that might be on our cabin chassis. commercial industrial or machinery and equipment that's no longer being used is in this category as well. And then we would have marine equipment. This would be anything that's not captured in a watercraft group, which would be boat and or motor and or trailer. And if I had an extra motor or something, or trailer, it would be in this particular category. So those are the kind of the things we were looking for in the other category. And the one that you had in 5022 would wind up, you'd be pulling it out of this particular group of other properties. So that's kind of where the ATVs and UTVs would be. Some of the exemptions you can see that would qualify: aircraft. There's several: business, antique, amateur built, then ATVs and ROVs and UTVs. It could be because exempt as farm machinery equipment, and or could be commercial industrial machinery and equipment as well. Pickup shells and toppers are exempt. We have antique trailers are exempt now. Machinery and equipment, purchase price of $1,500 or less per item, and then the sailboards exemption. So that kind of gives you an idea of some of the things that are in the other category that we would have. And we have a couple of illustrations here just to kind of give you an idea. We've got a 2023 Polaris UTV based on its market value of $1,378. Y times 30% times the levy, it's going to be $742 for our tax on that particular item. And then a trailer, again, market value times the 30% is going to give us, this Big Tex trailer is going to be $114 for the taxes on that one. And just kind of remind us that currently we pull the watercraft out of the constitutional groups, and they are valued at market value and 5% assessment rate. And with that, we have time for some questions.
Certainly, Roger. Thank you for that presentation, and thank you to your crew for coming here today and helping put this stuff together. I think I'll try to reiterate Representative Corbett's question. What are some of the main things other states are doing? Do they just have smaller rates? Do they have a faster depreciation? Why is Kansas so high on motor vehicles as compared to other states?
Yeah, what we did when it really mattered, when you could use it as a write-off on our taxes, we needed to be some kind of a value-based property tax at the time. Most of the states have gone away from this kind of thing, and basically they're doing just what we're doing on a commercial vehicle fee. They're coming up with some kind of a fee schedule. And so they're basically going around not using the market value or some kind of value basis. It's just going to a fee-based kind of a thing. Yeah, is what's going on. Sorry, I couldn't hear you, Representative.
And with regards to that, could you give us a little bit of the history on the commercial vehicle fee? Because I think that happened when I was a county commissioner. And I can't remember was it just to reduce the rate just for commercial vehicles? Because it seemed like there was a fairly significant drop. And using that comparison that you had provided on the F-150 example, it's a significant reduction versus the regular tag and tax.
I think that highlights the effectiveness of a good lobbyist on that particular one. And I don't remember, somebody have to remind me of the year. 2014? Am I 17? I don't know the exact year that we did that. Must have been 14, 15, somewhere through there, maybe 12.
I think you're close. I saw some
in that area. Odds. But yes, the idea was there was several different reasons we did it. One of them was it was just a really tedious thing to try to value all these commercial vehicles that were coming into the state of Kansas. And they had to report them to us. We had to value them. That was a big deal to be able to try to manage that kind of a process. So yeah, it helped streamline the process of valuing these things in some method. And the idea that a fee base, a lot of the other states around us were doing something very similar, and so we just jumped in there and also we're doing something much like them. And so truckers prefer this kind of thing. The out-of-staters can report the number of miles that they have in there or register their vehicles, and it makes it a lot easier for everybody. Yeah, it was ease effort. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Committee, are there any questions for Mr. Ham? Representative Bergkamp?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thanks for all the information today. Makes me realize how little I know here. On your illustration one, can you remind me again on the assessment percent why we use 20% and not 30% for the vehicle?
Help me.
So it's like the F-150 calculation for the split year, where 6 months.
Oh, yes,
are,
the split year.
yeah.
Why do we do that? You see below there, the renewal schedule that we have is a staggered to necessitate the flow into the treasurer's office so that everybody isn't going all at the first of the year or whatever. This way we can stagger it through the year and make that process easier. In doing so, we have to calculate it based on the 2 years that we have different months in those particular years. And so in this particular example, I used the H, which has 6 months in each one of those years. Am I not?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm just trying to figure out the assessment rate percentage. So it's like 20%. Versus, I didn't know if it's 30% or like where the 20% comes from.
The 20% is in statute. That's our assessment rate for that.
Okay.
For those vehicles. And we changed that. It used to be 30%. And I made some notes that I think, I don't know exactly when we started. There was from 95 to 99. We changed it from the assessment rate of 30% down to the 20% where we're at now. And at the same time, from 95 to 1999, we changed from having the full 20 meals for schools in there down to 0. So those two things were coming out from 95 to 99. So the current assessment rate is what you say, the 20%.
Thank you. And then just one more. So then on the depreciation, I guess I should have looked at my vehicles this year, but so once you get past year 7, would you have no base value then? So once you do 15% per year, do you essentially really not have a property tax base for that vehicle? Or is there a point where there's no property tax and only a fee associated with that vehicle?
Yes, and also in statute, we have a minimum. It's going to go all the way down, and at some point it will hit the minimums that we have currently, $12 and or $24. And I think they're 12. It depends on the year. 81 and older comes down to 12 and 6 for motorcycles.
Oh, okay. I see that there now. So,
pardon?
Yeah, I guess I see that. I missed that in the sheet there.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
Thank you for the calculation and for the information.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Committee, further questions? Representative Corbett?
Thank you, Chairman. When you go back to your table 6, referencing watercraft, when we took that tax down to 6%, that was to match some of the other states that were a lot lower than Kansas. And I can probably, and I can't prove this, but if we had that lowered to 6, that number would probably be even half of what you see now, because the taxes would have been that much. They would have crossed the line to Oklahoma and Missouri and kept them there. And I'm not sure that Missouri and Oklahoma still aren't cheaper than we are, but at least the 6% kept some people here, so it helped a little bit on your tax on the board.
Committee, further questions? If not, Roger, can you tell us how many remote operated vehicles we have in the state?
Say what?
Can you tell us how many remotely operated vehicles we have in the state?
I don't know that.
Is that what ROV stands for?
Nope.
Nope. Oh man, I thought
Anybody
I had it.
got it? ROV. What's an ROV? Representative Sawyer has your gift if you get it. Yeah. Recreational off-road vehicle. Somebody knew it, I'm sure. I had to ask.
I was trying to take a guess. Yeah, Representative Sawyer.
Since Representative Burkamp talked about it a little bit, up until 1995, we had the highest property taxes on cars in the nation. So we passed that bill in 95 to cut that assessment rate from 30 to 20 and take the 20 mills off and phase it over 5 years. And that we're still at 48 or something, but we're not the highest anymore.
All right. Any further questions, committee? Seeing none, Roger, thanks again for the presentation, and thanks to all your crew for all the help putting that together.
Thanks for putting up with it. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Committee will now open up our hearing on House Bill 2773, and I'll turn to the readvisor for an overview, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 2773 would provide a sales tax exemption for the Boys and Girls Club of Topeka. The bill would provide a exemption for all sales of tangible personal property or services purchased by the Boys and Girls Club of Topeka, which is exempt from federal income taxation, for the purpose of constructing, equipping, reconstructing, maintaining, repairing, enlarging, furnishing, or remodeling a workforce readiness and career development center for middle school and high school students. Additionally, the bill would provide an exemption for all sales and tangible personal property or services purchased by a contractor for the purpose of constructing, equipping, reconstructing, maintaining, repairing, enlarging, furnishing, or remodeling such facility for the Boys and Girls Club of Topeka. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Adam. Committee, any questions? Seeing none, thank you again. Kathleen, do you want to address briefly the fiscal note?
Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, Kathleen Smith with the Department of Revenue. We are estimating that House Bill 2773 would decrease state revenues by approximately $325,000 in fiscal year 25. Of that total, the state general fund is estimated to decrease by $267,000 and the state highway fund by approximately $58,000. To come up with that estimate, we did visit with the Boys and Girls Club of Topeka. They have reported that they are working on a capital project with taxable expenditures estimated around $5 million. And that is how we came up with our estimate.
Thank you, Kathleen. Committee, any questions on the fiscal note? Seeing none, thank you again. We will now open up our proponent section testimony and welcome first to committee, Dawn McWilliams. Welcome to committee.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, committee. I know I've been a thorn in your side, Chair, so I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you today. So our focus for Boys and Girls Clubs of Topeka is out-of-school time services for youth ages 5 to 18 years old. We have been a pillar in our community since 1955, and we have gone from serving young men and boys in one club setting to young women and men and teenagers in 14 club sites across Topeka and Shawnee County. Our focus is on youth development and providing youth with a successful future. Our focus is on academic success, developing good character, as well as living a healthy lifestyle. And workforce development has become a key component in preparing youth for life after school. Of those 14 club sites, we have one that is designated for teens, middle schoolers and high schoolers. That is an old community center that Shawnee County Parks and Rec allows us to utilize specifically for teens because those needs are so unique. We have been as creative as possible in utilizing the space inside there to create an infrastructure to teach trade skills, as well as social emotional skills and soft skills to get youth ready for the workforce. We have several businesses that are eager and very interested to partner with us because of our stellar work in preparing youth with soft skills for the workforce. We are very limited in space, only limited to providing 87 teens services at a time. This is very significantly challenging for us during the summer because we have to have a waiting list. And as many of you know, we would much rather prefer having teens in the teen center during the summer and during out of school time than having sedentary time. These teens are making the decision to be at the teen center, and we'd like to be able to expand to be able to serve teens throughout all of Topeka and Shawnee County. We currently serve all school districts in Topeka and Greater Shawnee County, and the other school districts outside of Topeka Public Schools are also very interested in partnering with us for workforce development for teens. We are very eagerly awaiting the opportunity to announce a capital campaign. We had a very generous donor purchase the land, which is west of our main clubhouse that was built in 1977, subsidized by all donor dollars. We continue to plan on that trend for the next building as well, but eagerly awaiting the opportunity to seek a sales tax exemption to maximize those donor dollars as well. But our teens, our community, and our companies are eagerly awaiting an opportunity to partner with us. They're partnering with us now, but we'll be able to do that on a grander scale with the state-of-the-art facility that can help provide these youth with a successful future. I'd also like to emphasize that we have a high population of teens where this investment is essential. We provide the highest percentage of services to kids that are in foster care, as well as kids that are identified as homeless. This is changing the trajectory of their future, which is having a dramatic effect on the infrastructure of our city as well. We're creating strong futures for kids, and we're eradicating cycles that continue to perpetuate. Stand for questions.
Thanks. And I think we'll wait and take all the conferees, then we'll take questions at the end.
Sure.
Thank you for your testimony.
Thank
Our
you.
next conferee is TC Brodnix via WebEx.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear. Please continue.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm here supporting the approval of House Bill 2773. My name is TC Brodnax, born and raised in Topeka, Kansas, proud member of the Boys and Girls Club from age 6 to 18. Currently, I'm serving as the city manager for the city of Dallas, Texas, and I'm just here to provide my support for what I believe is a transition and a pivot for many things that the Boys and Girls Club has meant to me throughout my life and career, and my commitment to how they helped me as a young man living in Topeka grow and thrive in an environment that was safe, but now have transitioned to more than just a safe place to be, but also helping the city and other organizations train young men and women in trades and skills to prepare them for life, in addition to having good character, but also being able to be productive residents in the city of Topeka. And so, again, I throw my support as a person who comes back and forth to Topeka, as I still have family there, to understand and share what I believe the Boys Club has done for me, but also I know will continue to do for other young men and women in Topeka. And so again, $325,000 to me in deferred sales tax to support this project is a token to the benefit that that will have on the lives of these young men and women, as well as the community. And that will come back 2- and 3-fold as it relates to their success as good residents of this fine city of Topeka. So thank you, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you, sir, and thank you for your testimony. Our next conferee is Major Timothy Phelps. Welcome to committee.
I guess that'll be a little easier. Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, members of the committee. Major Tim Phelps with Shawnee County Department of Corrections. I appreciate the honor. Thank you for the honor to come and speak with you today. This is the first time in my adult life that I've had the honor of talking to a Kansas Legislative Committee, likely to be the only time I ever do it. And I can't think of a more important subject to be making a presentation about than helping Kansas juveniles be prepared for their successful adulthood. I come from the perspective of a long career in corrections, that place that is considered in many instances to be the end of the road. 34 years I've been working in corrections. Support systems have broken down. Those options that most of us grew up taking for granted just are not present. Skill sets that have prepared us to face the challenges of growing up have not been developed, often because there was no competent adult that had both interest and ability in helping that development. In 2019, my career path took a deep dive into the community of generous souls who do the daily work to help our juveniles. Those organizations that dealt with children in need of care, those organizations that dealt with juvenile offenders, and those organizations that work feverishly to provide strong supporting systems for those juveniles who are at risk of entering one or both of those more troublesome systems, SINK and juvenile offenders. The state doesn't need to keep adding children to the SINK and juvenile offender populations. This state needs more options for preventing the crushing weight of those systems on our families. The Boys and Girls Club of Topeka has found a working formula in the way they engage with our juveniles, in the way they support the growth and development of our juveniles, and the way they show our juveniles that they are indeed loved and respected. The Teen Center Work Program has every chance to become the model for how we take juveniles who need structure and help and turn those juveniles into successful adults with functional skills and renewed understanding of their abilities to grow and achieve in their lives. That work that I've done with Boys and Girls Club, as well as many other entities in Shawnee County, has been humbling. As a father and a grandfather, as a career corrections professional who's seen the heartbreaking reality of unmet need for our community's youth, as an active advocate for those youth in the SINK and juvenile offender systems, I'm honored to give my full support and recommendation for doing all we can to help Dawn McWilliams and her team of wonderful workers at Boys and Girls Club of Topeka succeed in the development and building of the Teen Center facility. Thank you again, Chairman, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir. Did a great job for your first time. You're welcome back anytime, by the way. Our next conferee is Juliet Abdul. She might be written only testimony. I also have Dana Williams. I apologize if I didn't get that name correct.
No, you got it right. So good afternoon, Chairman Smith and members of the committee. As he said, my name is Daniel Williams. I'm a lifelong Topekan, born and raised here, graduated from Topeka West High School. spent some time at the Boys and Girls Club as a child. Now my daughter goes there during the summers, programs and stuff. So I support the House Bill 2773 for the sales tax exempt for the construction project of the new Boys and Girls Club Workforce Center Readiness Career and Leadership Development Center. As someone who values education, community engagement, and youth empowerment, I believe that this investment is crucial for the success of for our youth and our community as a whole. I understand firsthand the impact that the Boys and Girls Club Topeka has had on my child's development. The club has provided a safe, nurturing environment where my child has not only received academic support, but has also gained valuable life skills, leadership qualities, and sense of belonging. The Boys and Girls Club programs are designed to prepare young people for challenges and opportunities they encounter as they transition into adulthood, equipping them with knowledge, skills, and confidence to succeed in their chosen paths. As a small business owner, I recognize the importance of investing in our youth's education and career readiness. A workforce readiness career and leadership development center will not only benefit individual club members, but will also contribute to a more skilled, innovative, and competitive workforce in our community. By supporting this construction project with sales tax exemption, we're investing in the future, the prosperity of our city, and ensuring that our youth have access to resources they need to reach their full potential. I urge you to consider the long-term benefits of granting a sales tax exemption for this project. The positive impact on our youth, families, business, and community as a whole will be immeasurable. Thank you for your attention to this important matter and for your commitment to supporting youth development opportunity for our community. Any questions?
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Our next conferee is John Nave. Welcome to committee.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the committee for giving me the opportunity to stand before you. Okay, I represent the Kansas AFL-CIO and many of our members from across the state and in this community as well. A lot of our members do utilize this facility and facilities across the state, working families, men and women that work different shifts and different jobs. So we are wholeheartedly behind Senate or House Bill 2773. We see it as an uplifting our youth and strengthening our local economy. We look at this sales tax exemption specifically for the construction of a new work readiness, career, and leadership center. It's not merely about the infrastructure, but it's also about building the future of our workforce and investing in our kids and our youth. For them to think outside the box and giving them those opportunities, those hot buttons, what they like to do with their hands, with their minds, utilizing whether it's computers, whether it lies in lifting a hammer, where's the machinery. The future of the workforce is, and we're ensuring about Topeka and Shawnee County working families. I will say, I remember Mr. Broadnax. He went to school with some of my siblings back in the day. And he too, again, and as my siblings and my children utilized the Boys and Girls Club. By throwing your support behind this project, this exemption, we are expanding the capacity, the care, providing families with crucial resources that empower children for success. It drives economic growth in this community and Shawnee County. It's part of the Kansas AFL-CIO's mission, not only for working, men and women, but our future. These are our future kids in this community. Through robust skill development programs they will have, teams will have the opportunity to hone their critical job skills such as communication, teamwork, problem solving, time management, technical proficiencies. It's about securing good employment when they graduate or decide to go to the tech school or decide to go to college and be whatever their dream is to be. Furthermore, the Boys and Girls Club project will serve as a springboard for career exploration among our youth. Many teens lack exposure to diverse career paths and opportunities. These workshops, job shadowing programs, internship, and mentoring opportunities, the Workforce Development Center will enable teens to explore their interests, uncover their strengths, and make informed decisions about their career paths. In closing, we believe House Bill 2773 represents a transformative investment in our community's future. By championing these legislation, we prepare our young folks for their future and for their betterment of working families in Shawnee County and across the state as they become adults and move around this community, around the state. So, thank you, and I stand for any questions.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I also have listed Jam Marie Williams. Welcome to committee.
Thank you. This is my first time, so will let you know I am nervous. I'm very nervous right now, so I will let that very clear. My name is Jamari Williams. I am a Boys and Girls Club alumni, and I am currently a staff at Boys and Girls Club right now, and I support the House bill as well. And one of the things why I support the House bill is because I think a workforce readiness center will be extremely impactful for our youth. This will help prepare them for whatever career path they desire. It will provide them with opportunities to explore and learn various job skills as they are preparing to launch out into adulthood. I think it would also allow them access to opportunities that may not always be presented to them. Just because of some of our kids are homeless, they're in homeless poverty, and I feel like that will be very beneficial for those students. One of the things that the Boys and Girls Club mean to me is a very safe place for all kids of all different backgrounds and ethnicities and diversity. It's a place where they can come together and experience growth, be a part of a community, and engage in a meaningful programs and activities as well at the Boys and Girls Club of Topeka. That'll be all. Any questions? I think.
Jamari, thank you very much for your testimony. I apologize I didn't get your name correct at first.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, you did an excellent job. At this time, we will open it up for questions. If you want to take any, I'm just kidding. You don't have to stay up here. That's right.
Don't scare me, Mr. Chairman.
We try not to be too intimidating. Committee questions. Representative Alcala.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got a comment before I get to my question. So I think I have more seniority than anybody I heard testify today. As being an alum with the Boys Club of Topeka. At that time, it's Boys and Girls Club now. People don't realize that in the 1860s, the Boys Club was founded by 4 women in Hartford, Connecticut. And it was to find an establishment and a place for boys that roam the streets to go and have things to do to keep them out of trouble. In probably 1970, I became a member of the Boys Club of Topeka. It was operating out of an old school on 10th and Adams, 10th and Brander Trafficway, which was the old Washington School. And through that program, in 1970s, I started boxing in that facility. I learned how to fish, bow, woodwork, small engines, all from this facility as a kid that was, I came from a very structured home, but I was an ornery kid on the streets. And so I stayed there all the way up till probably 1975 or 1976. I found that the Boys and Girls Club now, has been a very big part of my life. I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. I might be sitting over in Tim's place, maybe, if it wasn't for the Boys and Girls Club. That was an establishment at that time that ran, I don't know, maybe about 100 kids from the neighborhood through there with just 3 staff members. And they didn't have no money. They created all these things, going fishing, going bowling, going to the movies. So it's been a big part of my life, and it was a big part of my life. And I know a lot of kids right now that attend the Boys and Girls Club. I run an after-school program over at the Salvation Army that attend the Boys and Girls Club, and it's been a big part of their life. These kind of programs, and I don't need to tell you guys this, that are structured, within communities that generate so many people. They have a club out in Montero, they have a club across the city, so everybody can come. But there's a big diversified group of kids that attend there, and I'm going to tell you, it's value added to the community. I mean, we hear all this testimony, and we hear it all the time. Everybody has the buzzwords. Oh, it's going to do this. Oh, it's going to do that. This one really does do that, and so I would say I would encourage us to try to get this passed out. See if we can't get it voted on. I do have a question for Don McWilliams. Hey, Don, can you tell me what the percentage of homeless kids is that you service there at the Boys and Girls Club?
Yes, I can tell you as of yesterday, we serve, I won't give you the exact percent. Is it okay if I give you the number? We serve about 1,400 kids a year. And as of yesterday, we had 49 homeless youth.
And kids that are in the DCF or foster children, how many of those do you serve percentage?
At the teen center, there are 87% of our teens are in the foster care system.
Do you get any money from the state or DCF for having those kids in your program?
We do not. We're not eligible for the subsidy, sir.
Because?
Because of the way that we're licensed, but we're working to change that.
Okay.
That's in another committee.
Okay. That's my question. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Did I hear you correctly? 87%?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
And those, if I might add, those children in the teen center are not in foster homes. They have been through so many foster homes. They're living in group homes. They put on a conference this week about foster care, and many of them have been in 13, 14, 15 different placements, and then now they're living in group home situations. So.
Yeah, I received some of those kids in my program.
Yes, sir.
Probably from the same group homes.
Yes.
And they change pretty frequently, but still, I mean, you're providing a service.
Yes,
to those kids.
Thank you. Committee, any further questions? Seeing none, I want to thank everyone for their fine testimony. Certainly a worthwhile cause. Thank you for taking the time to come in today and speak to the committee.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay. Committee, that concludes, or I'll keep, I guess, are there any opponents or neutral testimony? Seeing none, that concludes our hearing on House Bill 2773 and